Welcome to Shelly's Nest.
Hi everyone. We have something a little different for you today.
We're going to jump back to when we first got Shelly, sort of take you along on our early adventures.
All of these adventures are from 2019. We bought her in August of 2019, and we did a few adventures on the way home, and then we have a few adventures that finish out 2019. We did have criteria for the RV. One of the floor plans that we really liked was the table with the computer drawer and the actual chairs.
Working in a dinette just seemed so fixed. Like you have the table, you have the chair, and there's no moving it around.
We found one in Pennsylvania, and we decided to drive up to Pennsylvania and pick it up. So that is where our adventure in this RV more or less begins.
The one that we found actually was found by doing RV tours on YouTube. And so we looked through, and this particular dealership listed this RV, had a tour of it, and it had a floor plan, it had the coloring that we liked. We decided to make the drive up and check it out in person.
Mm-hmm. We got to the place where we bought the RV. They let us stay the night. They worked on a few things that we had issues with, and then we were on our way. We spent a couple of nights in Pennsylvania. This is Dogwood Acres in Pennsylvania. When we decided to go to Dogwood Acres, we called and asked them what's a good way to get there. Good thing we did.
There's a low clearance bridge along the way, and the campground told us how to avoid it. While we could have driven under it, because we're 12.6, we weren't ready to take that chance yet.
Bringing home the RV was a lot of fun. That was our first adventure. In Pennsylvania, we did two things. We went to Waggoner's Gap Hawk Watch. That interested somebody over here who has a soft spot for hawks.
Yeah.
But I don't think we saw any.
We did not see any hawks. We had found out the Audubon was up there recording the sightings from morning to dusk. They'd take turns. But we did see some blackbirds.
Something
vultures.
that the Audubon didn't count because they said that they're not raptors.
Yeah. Yeah, they have a really good map at the very beginning. It says, here you go, and just follow these trail markers. The trail marker was very faded out.
Yes.
And the path was a lot of just rocks, stepping over rocks. And it was not the easiest trail to walk up.
The other thing we did in Pennsylvania was we went and visited the U.S. Army Heritage and Education Center.
Easy for you to say.
It wasn't just a museum of accomplishments and such, and it wasn't just tanks out in the yard. They had a replica of a trench system that would possibly have been used in World War I.
Yeah, so it was neat seeing how it was reinforced and the little bunkers they had.
And there were placards saying like what job duty might have been done in what area, because they did have a place for a medic or a sick bay type of place.
But they did have all the tanks and the vehicles, and I really enjoyed checking those out. One of the things that attracted us to Dixie Caverns was we needed a campground to stay in because we're not used to boondocking yet. And Dixie Caverns happened to have their own campground, and I have an interest in exploring caves and stalactites and stalagmites and all that. So it just worked out that in addition to going to the campground, we got a discounted rate to go and check out the caverns.
Yeah, it was interesting. Our tour guide was a high school student. He did very well with his knowledge and cracking jokes and such. We found out that Dixie Caverns was discovered by two farm boys whose dog fell in a hole that led to the caverns. And can you guess what the dog's name was?
Dixie. Yeah, so they named the caverns after their puppy. after getting home, we started planning our next trip, which was a beach trip. So we are about 3-4 hours away from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
That we stayed at Myrtle Beach State Park. This was our first trip away from home where DeWitt was going to have to work because he took vacation time when we brought the RV home. He was a little bit nervous and hoping that he could have full connection. And he did. It all worked really well. So we were only gone for a week. At this point, he drove the RV and I drove the car because we didn't have a tow dolly and we didn't have a car that was able to be towed all 4 tires down. While we were there, DeWitt decided to cook up some hamburgers on the grill.
Debbie has to have her s'mores.
Yes, cannot have a fire without s'mores. I mean, come on.
And one of the great things about working from the road is that you have all these new things that you can do before work or after work. So we tried to start our days especially early and walk out along the beach or the boardwalk, walk along the nature trails back to the swamps, which wasn't so exciting because we were covered with mosquitoes, so we hurried back. One of the other things that we always do in Myrtle Beach is check out their all-you-can-eat buffet. We really enjoyed their all-you-can-eat seafood there.
And, we're saying all-you-can-eat seafood, but basically what we gorge ourselves on is the Alaskan king crab legs and shrimp.
True. One of the pictures we have is my foot beside the elevations marker. And I had to explain to Debbie why I took the picture of my beside the 1 foot sign.
Yeah. You had to de-explain it to me.
So all in all, the Myrtle Beach trip was a good experience. I was able to work. And of course, I had to take a couple special pictures for the guys at work of me cooking in my black calf socks with sandals on to really
accentuate that he was working from home and he didn't have to dress up. The 1-week Myrtle Beach trip was such a success that we planned a 3-week trip for the fall. And we started off going to Maggie Valley. When you see the picture of Shelly on the dashboard, that was my perspective of that trip because we got a tow dolly and we could tow the car so I didn't have to drive separately.
Debbie actually got to ride in the RV and help me navigate for a change.
Oh yeah, I had to do that too.
Yeah, so Maggie Valley is up on the Blue Ridge Parkway in North Carolina mountains. And we got some great views. It's during the fall, so it's a little chilly, but we got to see the sunset. We weren't early risers for the sun to rise. And it's just some real pretty views. Now, during this time, it's also elk season, not hunting, but
rut season, which is when the males decide to choose their females, and you don't want to get in their way.
So while we're driving home late one night, I saw an elk, a big elk crossing the street. And I'm like, Debbie, get the camera out. But unfortunately, it was dark and things were moving, so all the pictures are blurry.
I tend to fumble when I'm trying to hurry up and get my camera. But that's okay because we were visiting his mom and her husband, and his mom knew where to go to look for elk early in the morning.
Yeah, so we went down the road towards Cherokee, North Carolina. And they had this area set aside where you can pull off and park, and open fields where you'll see dozens of elk out, or at least for us. Other people said hundreds, but in addition to the elk, well, they get to see turkeys.
It was a lot of fun, and we got to see a baby. So we saw a couple of males with the really big horns, and we saw some females who were protecting their babies.
One of the elk decided he got tired of one side of the road, so he just walked right across in front of us.
It was traffic stopping.
During our time at Maggie Valley, we decided one of the first places we stopped on the Blue Ridge Parkway is Water Rock Knob, and got some great views and sunset pictures. But
we also did a lot of driving around the Blue Ridge Parkway during the daylight, and it's just so much fun to see how expansive the mountain system is, and we even found a waterfall.
Further along, we got to the highest elevation of the Blue Ridge Parkway, a little over 6,000 feet.
We caught some beautiful sunsets just at our campground too. After leaving Maggie Valley, we went to Lake Hartwell, South Carolina. We spent one day looking for waterfalls, and we found 4.
Yeah, the first one we went to actually was also included a partial tunnel that had been dug out for a train line that was meant to go from the coast out to the west. And the rock was just so hard that they had to give up on it.
So now bats use the cave. We saw 4 waterfalls, and I kind of remember the names of them, and I hope the pictures line up with what the names are. Most of them we could drive to, where we could park and just walk a short way and see the waterfall. But one of them, we parked and we walked and we walked and we walked.
Yeah, this one's Riley Moore waterfall, where we checked it out, and while there was a road up to the trailhead, they said unless you have a high clearance vehicle, you probably shouldn't do. So we had to park about a mile away, walk down the road to the trailhead, and walk another mile-ish. Debbie and I are definitely like, are we there yet?
It was so comforting seeing people who were coming in the opposite direction saying, "You're almost there, keep going."
But I think they were bending the truth a little bit, because we weren't really almost there from our perspective.
We hung out there for a little while and watched the waters. Waterfalls are always so mesmerizing.
And our last waterfall was probably the best for that point in time, where we could drive into the park. From the car, we could actually see the waterfall.
Yes.
And then we just got out, and across from the waterfall was a nice large rock that we could sit on and just relax and have a snack and enjoy the waterfall.
Yeah, it was all so pretty. It was so much fun to see all those different waterfalls, and there were so many more to see. We just had to choose 4 of them because we only had so much daylight. Our last trip of the year of 2019, we went to Stone Mountain, which is near Atlanta, Georgia. And that worked really well for us because at the time, Jimmy and Natalie were working in Atlanta. So not only did we get to hang out and see Stone Mountain, but we got to hang out with them for a day or two because they were working too. We have been to Stone Mountain before when the kids were little and we were in the Class C camper that we had. We used the cable cars to go up to the top because, it's a family of 5 with 3 small children. But I wanted to walk to the top, which was a mile, and so we did that. And it was amazing. I think it was at least in 2 places. It was so steep. There was a handrail there for you to use to help get yourself up the side of the mountain. That was just amazing.
Yeah, so while Jimmy and Natalie, they joined us walking up the side of the mountain up to the very top. Then we walk back down. It was a great view. It was definitely a little more strenuous than Debbie and I had ever done before, so that was a great experience for what we hope is going to start many more adventures like that.
We were not as fast as Jimmy and Natalie, but we did it. We still climbed to the top.
There you go. After we finished walking around the park, we drove around these spraying snow up onto the mountains to have
The ski slope?
a tube. They were having a slide for inner tubes.
That was amazing to watch, the snow being blown up. We didn't stay to see them spread it out, but they were just making snow.
Yeah, it's probably 50, 75 feet tall mountainous ice they were making, and then they had some plastic ramps that they were going to coat as well. After Jimmy and Natalie left, Debbie and I decided we'd go ahead and walk around the base of the mountain.
Yep, somewhere around a 6-mile walk, I think it was.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was well marked, except for one part where we were climbing on the side of the mountain where it's very steep. We did it, but we were very careful.
We got to see some old history throughout the place because, way back years ago, people lived around Stone Mountain. It wasn't a state park way back when, so there were remnants of old houses or cabins and such. There were all kinds of different trails, some going through the woods, some literally right on the edge of the water, which was cool.
Yeah, the stonemasons had cut the stones into heart shapes. It was fun to watch and see if you could find where they had placed the different size hearts.
It took us all day because that's just how we intended for it. We took our time. Why rush? There were so many interesting things to see.
Yeah, they had water wheels along the way, covered bridges, like Debbie said, different parts of history, some that was originally there, some that was relocated there. We were walking along the lakes that were surrounding Stone Mountain.
We really enjoyed it because not only did we walk the mile to the top of Stone Mountain, we walked the 6 miles around it.
For 2019, Stone Mountain was our last campground that we stayed at, and sort of wrapped it up with a great experience.
These are some of our activities that we did in 2019 before we started the channel, and we just thought we'd share that with you.
Both of us like taking pictures and sharing them with family, and we really weren't sure how we're going to continue to do this, share our experiences with our family, and we said we could just do a YouTube video and our families would probably be the only ones that would watch it. It's really been wonderfully surprising, the number of you that have joined along and supported us, encouraged us to continue our adventures.
We appreciate those of you who watch and leave such positive comments for us. It's really encouraging because every now and then I'll get a little down, not sure if our video is good enough. The whole thing that other YouTubers go through, I guess. We definitely appreciate the support in the comments, letting us know how much you enjoy our videos. Thank you very much for that.
Well, we hope that you've enjoyed our flashback to 2019.
Until next week.
Bye.
Bye.